What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs podcast. In this episode, we'll be reviewing that draw against Sunderland. 2 points drop for Tottenham. New year, same Tottenham. So we'll be discussing that, of course, and previewing Bournemouth. Our next game is a fast-moving fixture schedule at the moment in this festive period, and Bournemouth is the next one for Tottenham on Wednesday night. So 2 games to discuss, and I've got a 5-star panel. If only Tottenham could play at that at the moment, but let's introduce them one by one. Dustin, thank you for joining me live from Singapore. How are you doing and what time is it in Singapore?
Hi, it's 3 a.m.
Still just find it amazing every time. It's never going to change. It's just incredible, that commitment. Thank you so much, Dustin, for being with us to discuss, I'm sure, as well, frustrating game in your eyes as well. Gary, thank you very much for coming on. Hope you're keeping well. Really good to have you as always. How have you been doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. Just a shame about yesterday. The last 10 minutes, we couldn't sort of hold on to those final 10 minutes, really. But yeah, other than that, doing pretty good. Thanks for having me back.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time. Always good to have you. Thank you. Philip, thank you very much for coming on, joining us live from Frankfurt, Germany. Correct me if I'm wrong. How are you doing?
All good, Harry?
Yeah, good. Yeah, all fine. Happy New Year, everyone, as well. I think this is the first one I've been on this year as well, so I hope everyone slid in well to the new year, as they say here in Germany. But yeah, looking forward to tonight. Thank you for having me on, and we've got loads to discuss, haven't we?
We absolutely have, 100%. Philip, thank you very much for coming on. Ben, if you can hear us, thank you very much for coming on. How are you doing? Have you sorted out issues? No, I'm not sure if you have. Don't worry, we'll come back to you. Oh, can you hear us? All right, no, you can't. No worries. Right, we'll move on for now. But we have got Ben as well joining us from England. But if you do listen, firstly listen on YouTube, please like and subscribe if you're new. If you listen by audio podcast platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. I mean, being live, of course, you do get sometimes technical issues, but the show must go on, as they say, as Ben drops out for now. Let's go through then the Tottenham lineup for the Sunderland game for those that did miss it. It's a little bit of surprise, some would say, myself included. So Vicario in goal, a back line of Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Davis, a midfield of Gray, Benson Core, and then a front line of Tell, Kudus, Odobert, and Richarlison. Gary, if you don't mind to kick it off with you, I mentioned there about surprise. I assume something surprised you in here, but what surprised you the most? Because there's a couple of things that fans didn't expect to say beforehand.
The biggest surprise is Romero and Van der Ven at centre-back. Absolutely. No, Ben Davis slotting in. Fair play, that he went for that. I was more surprised, really, with Tell starting than I was over Davis, oddly enough. I was really pleased to see Tell, Odobert and Kudus. I was trying to think of a number of ways that sort of front four would work out. And I kind of thought Kudus might be the 10. And then the more I thought about it, Kudus and Porro linked so well down that right-hand side. So, yeah, Davis slotting in there was great to see, but was more interested to see how that front four pieced together, really.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Gary, for that. Absolutely. I think we can all agree on this panel. Ben Davis starting was a huge surprise. I think if you said to Ben Davis himself in 2017 that you'd be starting a game and be Tottenham's first scorer of 2026, I think he would have laughed at you and probably walked away. But Philip, I'll come to you. Matthias Tell in the lineup. Was that a surprise by you, a player that's clearly been out of favour with Thomas Frank so far, or up until this game?
Yeah, it was a massive surprise, to be honest. A pleasant surprise. I've always liked Matthias Tell. I've always thought that when he's got a chance, when he's come off the bench, he's actually looked dangerous pretty much every time straight away. Especially on the left, when he's come on kind of on the left. But it was a surprise. To be honest, I think on the morning of the game or even on Saturday, I can't remember, but there was a few rumours flying around that, we were looking to loan him out in January. Well, who knows? We may still loan him out in January, right? Theoretically, although it'd be very surprising. But I actually thought that we probably would then, and that he wouldn't play again under Frank, possibly. For the coming months, right? He's hardly got a look in the last few games. He's never had more than a couple of minutes from the bench when probably a lot of fans have asked for it. So yeah, I was very, very happy to see him play, and as Gary said as well, that Davies just quickly, I was happy that Davies was playing as well. Like, it was just kind of almost like a proof or some kind of sign that Frank, was at least willing to change things, even if it was based on pressure, maybe from the fans, like after the last couple of games, but at least he kind of went out there with a bit of a new approach to the game. So I was super happy with it.
Philip, thank you very much. I echo those thoughts there myself. Thank you. Dustin, no Colin Warney in the lineup. You've spoken about him starting on the wing, and basically, like with myself, we don't like to see that. I mean, you voiced your concern with that. He wasn't in the lineup at all in this game. Did that take you by surprise, knowing that maybe? Well, I thought we would have come ahead of the likes of, for example, Matthias Tell when picking a lineup, but Frank went for Tell, not with Colin Warney.
I don't think it surprises me because I think it's quite clear that Richarlison is Frank's first choice, for whatever reason that is. So Moani missing out and Tell being in his place wasn't that huge a surprise. I think that Ben Davies was the other main surprise, but yeah, I would say that not to say it's my preference, but I do expect Richarlison as the first name on the team sheet in our front line for some reason.
Okay, thank you very much. He is at the moment, definitely, and his stats aren't bad either. Ben, hopefully you sorted out some technical issues. Thank you very much. I want to ask you about Ben Davies in particular, because he did come back into the lineup. Do you think Frank right now is looking for experience? He's looking for leadership? He's looking for a bit of stability with times being tough?
I think experience definitely is what he's looking for. And, for somebody like Ben Davies, who's quite often been ridiculed by a lot of the fan base, the one thing you can't ever level against him is lack of effort. And I do think in the last few weeks we've seen what appears to be questionable effort levels from some of our squad, and I think he's brought Davies in as almost as a measuring stick of saying to some of them, hey, this is the effort level I need in this from all of you. So, and that's what he's going to need from all of them. And I think it did reflect in the first half, I thought, against Sunderland. You did see, a bit more of an urgency about the team. It did lull, obviously, second half, but I think that he's using Ben Davies as not only as a benchmark, but as a statement as well to say, hey, if you want to be in, it doesn't matter how talented you are, you need the effort as well.
Absolutely. No, I think you're right with that. Hit the nail on the head. Ben, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And if we move on then to the rest of the game in terms of the events that happened, because there were 2 goals in the game, and the first one went to Tottenham in the 30th minute, so half an hour mark through. The man we're speaking about, Ben Davies, assisted by Mickey van der Ven. Another Tottenham goal from a set piece. Philip, I'll come back to you. What did you make of this goal? And you surprised to see and find out that Davies is our first scorer of 2026? I personally wouldn't have guessed that, just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I wonder what the odds were for that, actually. In retrospect, it must have been something crazy. Well, yeah, 2 things. I mean, I thought Mickey van der Ven scored it at first, because that's what they were saying on my Sky Germany feed, watching it. And then when they announced Davies, it sounded like in the stadium there was an even bigger roar after that, which is cool. And I'm kind of surprised it wasn't own goal a bit as well, because that kind of would have happened to us as well. But yeah, look, I mean, when we got that goal, it was a well worked move. Obviously, it didn't come from open play. It came from another set piece, let's say, which I don't really care about, right? Goals are goals. Other people might moan about it a bit more, but, we scored a goal, so it's cool. It was a bit of kind of pinball, and then the ball came across for Davies to kind of finish it off, which is cool. In fact, there was a shot, wasn't it? It was from Van der Ven, and then Davies kind of redirected it into the goal. Yeah. And, so it was a good, it was actually good, it was good play by Davies, to be honest, and he was in the right place at the right time. And at the time when we scored it, I was just, again, pretty happy that, we did manage to score another set piece. So obviously continuing our run of, getting improvement on set pieces, both offensively and defensively. And obviously it was pretty early in the game really as well, up to a certain extent. So, at that time, I'm sure we'll talk about how we played in the first half, but at that moment we were, we had our foot on the throttle, we were playing front foot football, and the fact that we got the goal was great. And, I was kind of obviously very positive and hoping that we'd go on, and get the 2-0 ASAP after that, right? So, yeah. But good. But again, for Davies to score it as well, and not only obviously come back on the team and score it, was just an amazing kind of personal achievement for him again, I think. And look, I mean, just on Davies quickly, I mean, can't remember how many games he's played for us now, but like it's an insane amount of games, right? Over 10 years. And he's an absolute servant of the club, and obviously he won't be put up there in the same kind of echelons as someone like Son or Kane, right, in terms of being Spurs legends, but in terms of what he's served for the club, he's right up there, right, in terms of service, as a bit of a kind of modern day legend, right, for sticking with us. And I still hope he becomes a coach with us as well, actually, because I think he'd be a really good coach or potentially manager in the future. But yeah, just a bit of a side note on him, my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Not exactly sure on Davis, but I think it is over 300 appearances now for Tottenham. But
361.
There we go.
Yeah.
Quite a bit over 300. So impressive stuff. Ben
And
Davis, Gary,
10
thank
goals, which was off 10 goals, which I
10.
think is quite interesting. Yeah.
It's more than I would have guessed.
Nice.
There we go.
Yeah,
Good
three,
stuff.
and he
Thank
got 85 starts, 85 games for Swansea and 3 goals for Swansea.
Okay, good stuff. There you go. Didn't know that's that at all. Gary, thank you. And we'll stick with you if you don't mind, because as you will know, there's a lot of, rightly or wrongly, negativity around the Spurs in general, but in particular amongst the fan base at the minute. But you think a real positive is that we're utilising these set pieces, because I think whether we like it or not, they're a key part in a game, aren't they? Sometimes they win you a game, sometimes they stop you from losing a game, let's just say, whether we should. Of course, we all want us to improve in open play, but I think that's a real positive this season, that we've been a lot better at those set pieces.
Yeah, definitely. We would be lost without set pieces this season. We haven't scored from out of play for 3.5 full games. I think the last time we scored was when Xavi Simons was actually playing. So we haven't created any sort of out non-set piece goals for quite some time, really. So that is a little bit worrying. It was great to see him score. I was in the stadium, but like Phil, I thought Van de Ven had actually scored it. I thought he'd shot and it sort of just took a deflection and went in. But then when we saw Davis, because it was on my side where I sit in front of the media section, so it was on my side of the goal, and it was like, oh my God, is that Ben Davis has scored? And everyone around us just was like, that was brilliant. And he got a huge reception for that goal. When he was subbed off and walked around, he got a standing ovation from all 3 corners. So that he is a club. Legend is a difficult word to bring out, but I think the servant that he's an incredible servant, incredible professional, and to be able to come in and haven't have played really at all and put in a performance as he did, he gave so much balance to the squad that really helped us, and he was good on offensive and defensive set pieces, as was Richarlison. Actually, defensively, Richarlison cleared a lot of set pieces on Sunday. So the set pieces is a huge part of the game now, as we've seen from a number of clubs, both free kicks and throw-ins. Let's not talk about Lucas Bergvall's throw-in, but it is a huge part of the game now. And thankfully, it's something that we are relatively good on at the moment. It's just hope that we can improve other aspects of the game as well.
Okay, Gary, thank you. Yeah, we'll get on to that Lucas Bergvall for a moment, of course, and his cameo a little bit later. But Ben, would you agree it felt important beforehand that Tottenham got the first goal? Sunderland are a defensive team. They play for a point in every game. That's been the same ever since they got promoted. The same aim, get a point and kind of move on. Stability, defensive side, see out a game, grind out a game. So it felt like Tottenham had to take the lead in the game. It couldn't really been a better start because we took the lead and looked really good.
Yeah, we did look very good, and you can, for as much as you could accuse Sunderland of being a defensive side, they've been a very good side all season. Big sides. I mean, look at the game before against Man City, how City couldn't break them down, get through. So it was a big moment, that opening goal. And really, even before that, we looked like we were on the front foot. It looked like we were trying to go forward and actually take the game by the scruff of the neck, not, just sit back and let the game come to you, which I think we've been too reliant on too often this season. So the fact that we got that goal through, very well worked, delivery was excellent. And pushing through, we had a couple of very good chances as well. It actually felt like for the first time in too long, we looked actually positive and actually looked like we were trying to grab the game and actually win it from the get-go rather than trying to just see a game out. But it was definitely encouraging first half for certain.
Yeah, 100%. I think I agree with that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. And that's the thing, isn't it, Dustin? If I come to you, that we're doing really well at set pieces, but open play, because there's a comment here, if I bring it up, if it allows me to, that, just says here, we'd be in the bottom three if it was without set pieces. I mean, doesn't really surprise you, I'm sure. It doesn't surprise any of us. It's concerning. So how important is it that Tottenham improve their open play?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, and especially what was interesting about this game was that the main way that we have been creating chances has been crossing out to the wing, specifically Porro to Kudus. Kudus does some interplay with Bergvall or tries to dribble his man and then passes it back to Porro who for the cross in or cutting it back. So our creative play has all been down the right. And then the other main outlet would be Spence carrying from the left. But Spence didn't play this game and Kudus got injured early on. So we actually had a game where our two main creative outlets were not working, or they were not on the field. And we actually played a different way. We actually did a lot more interplay, a lot more central progression. And I think that it showed a different aspect of how we can create chances. So that was the part that I found encouraging about the first half. We'll probably talk a bit more about how we fell apart in the second half, but I think that there were some green shoots there.
Absolutely. Before we get onto the whole first half as a whole, I should know before the goal in the 19th minute, Mohamed Kudus made way through injury for Rando Colomwani. I mean, Philip, I come to you with Kudus. Of course, we hope he's okay, and to provide an update, he will be out for the Bournemouth game. But it just feels typical, doesn't it, that we go and sell our top scorer from last year in Brennan Johnson in that position because, in the club's words, we feel we've got strength, in that position, and then Kudus goes and gets injured.
Yeah, I mean, when the chips are down, when the going gets tough, these things just seem to happen, don't they? Especially to us, like it's incredibly bad luck. I know there'll be some people saying, it's the club's fault for not having having a replacement per se for Johnson, right? To kind of sit on the bench then, because obviously Johnson wouldn't have started yesterday. Would he even have come on to replace Kudus yesterday if he'd been on the bench? I don't know, to be honest, probably not, because I think he would have played Odobert or Tell if he hadn't, if he was still in the squad, it would have been a different situation. I think it's just terribly bad luck. It's just sod's law, as you'd say, right? I saw, a lot of people, being critical of Thomas Frank, being critical of, the recruitment team and of Vinay and the club, for not having someone else in already. But I don't really see what kind of argument that is, because I think that the club did very good business to get Brennan Johnson out as quickly as possible, rather than dragging it out. And, they had the offer there, they got it done. They're obviously confident that we're going to get, more, at least one attacking option in, if not two. And if we're being honest, I think under Frank, at least at the moment, Odobert and Tell, and maybe even someone else are ahead of Johnson, probably in the pecking order. So I think it's a bit unfair, right, to jump on the bandwagon and start kind of criticising, the club or the management team for not having, someone in place of Johnson there, or for selling Johnson before having a replacement, because that's not really what the situation is. We're not selling Johnson and buying a replacement. We haven't replaced Son yet, right? But we're going to strengthen our attacking options, but we're not going out like for like. So it's just one of those things. It's a shame. I hope that Kudus isn't obviously, out for a long time. I think he had a scan today, from what I'm led to believe, and he's unlikely to feature against Bournemouth. It's clear that he's got some kind of muscle injury, but let's just hope it's a minor tweak or a minor strain or something. But I mean, it could be that he's out for a couple of months. If it is, then it's a bit of a problem for us. But then, if I'm being brutally honest, Kudus hasn't set the world on fire over the last 6 weeks either, right? He had a very good start to the season. He's done very little in the last kind of few weeks, right, in terms of either assists or goals. So I don't know. Maybe it's another way of resting him for a bit as well, because he's played every game. So I don't know. These things can have different different effects, different impacts. So in looking at it a different way, if he's out for like a month or something, I know he's got to recover from his injury, but it's almost like a bit of a rest for him, right? And maybe he can, reset a bit and hopefully come back in 4 weeks' time, when hopefully as well, maybe Thomas Frank has got a bit more, progression with the team and we're in a slightly better position, hopefully. Obviously, that's being very hopeful. But I mean, that's what we have to be at the moment, isn't it? To be honest.
I think in a way it was a bit of a, not blessing that he was injured, but actually forced us to play differently, because so much of our attack, especially in transition from defence, comes through Kudus or goes down that right-hand side. And that, with him going off, somewhat forced us to play through the middle, as Dustin alluded to earlier. And it also forced us to move the ball out towards Tell, that was demanding the ball non-stop. He wanted that ball at every minute, and he was making some really good runs. Colin Mawani was making some good runs. He struggled, but he was making those runs, and Odeberg was making some really exciting runs through the middle. So it kind of, in a way, unlocks a bit of attacking creativity by him going off. And that's not because of what he's doing. It's just because that's the way we're playing, and it's very predictable. So we kind of became slightly unpredictable with him off the pitch.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's very true. We are reliant on Kudus as well, and he's frustrated fans as well recently. Thank you, Gary, and also Philip initially for that. Ben, what were your thoughts on the first half as a whole? We went into the half 1-0 up. A lot of Spurs fans generally, I get the feeling, were happy with the way we played. Just how much better do you think we were in this game than we have been in the last few weeks? What do you reckon, Ben?
Very good, I thought. Generally, as I said earlier, it was confident. We was on the front foot. We were actually looking for passes in behind the defence. Well, I think we have too much of a tendency to go just side to side and play in front of the back four, and not actually try any passing that cuts through, the opposition defence. And I think we do have a tendency to just play it safe too much. But we saw just a little glimpse of it here and there, and with a bit more clinical finishing from for Charleston and from some others, we could have been 2 or 3 up at half time very easily, and probably we would have had the game in the bag. But from an overall point of view, it was definitely much, given the horror shows we've had recently, it was a massive improvement, and kind of what we saw at the beginning of the season, the games against Burnley, against Man City, against Leeds, those games, it was actually had that bit of flair fire to it, even in spite of the problems we had with Kudus going out. But overall, at half time, I thought you'd think, get a second goal quickly and we'll have this game wrapped up.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're all hoping for ultimately. I think we all would have wanted us as well to push on that second goal. So frustrated now as we look back. Ben, thank you. Gary, would you say that Tell was a standout individual in that first half? Of course, the player that's received a lot of criticism, hasn't really worked out for him in loads of different ways this season. I thought personally that he looked brighter, let's just say, in that first half. Would you agree?
Yeah, I thought he was probably one of our best players, actually. I thought with Bentancur had a really, really good game, actually. And I thought Tell looked so bright, looked progressive, looked like as I said earlier, he was wanting the ball. Every time the ball went back to Christian Romero, he was trying to make curving runs. He was demanding the ball into him. Bentancur was feeding it into him all the time. And you want players on the ball that want the ball and want to go at a player. And every time, not every time, let's say 80% of the time, it was a progressive movement he was doing. He was going at the player. A couple of times he was obviously keeping possession, but I really enjoyed it. I think he's a very, very good football player. I don't think he's been given anywhere near enough opportunities under Thomas Frank, especially with that left-hand side issue that we've got. I think he should start on Wednesday, and I'd like to see a good run of games in him, because I think there's a player in there, and I think there's a very, very good player in there. He could unlock some stuff for us, and the fact that him and Odegaard link together so well, being at under 21 level as well for France, and they've clearly got a good rapport. I like that. I would like to have seen Tel, Odegaard, Kudus and Kodo Moani as sort of your front four. I thought that would be something quite special, forward-thinking players. But we almost got it. But yeah, I was very, very pleased and impressed with his sort of about 60 minutes. He ran out of legs, and that's completely understandable, seeing as he hasn't had a lot of game time. But yeah, more of that. And again, like Ben Davies, got a very, very good reception when he was walking around the pitch after, which I like. I find it very interesting that the pitch in the stadium reactions seem to be very, very different to on social media reactions. In a number of areas. I saw a lot of criticism for Ben Davies, but as I said, there was 3 parts of the stand, and I think you sit slightly above where I sit, Harry.
Yeah.
We all stood up and gave him a standing ovation, but I saw quite a lot of stuff on social media of them not being very happy with him. The same for Tel. He got another standing ovation, but there was people sort of saying they weren't happy with his performance. So very split fan base is what we have at the moment.
Definitely. I do feel that those on social media, in my honest opinion, as someone who benefits from social media, I do think they're mainly negative. It's very, we just jump on a kind of bandwagon. If we don't like a certain player, like Davies, he'll be held to ransom that he's in the team in 2026. But my argument is hold the owners to account. The fact that not only is he still here, but we haven't gone and got better. It's not Davies' fault that he's still here. He's coming in and doing a good job. It's credit to him, actually. It's the owners who I have a problem with. They're having to rely on people like Davies in 2026 to hold the club together. That's my problem.
I counted as well on that game, because I'd said to my brother, I was like, I don't think he's put a foot wrong. And literally about 2 minutes later, he missed past it when I thought, it's commentator's curse. I've rewatched it. There's literally not even a handful of mistakes that he even makes. He makes one error, which Van der Ven covers him. And that's the type of player you want, a pro. I use FootMob for all of my score stuff and statistics. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. He got a 7.9 out of 10. He got the second best rating in our team. So I thought he had a great game, as I did think Tel did too.
Totally agree with you, Gary. Thank you. Comment here from Spurs Diehard. He says that Davies is out of contract in the summer, and he says, "Should we keep him?" Philip, I'll give this question to you. Ben Davies, should we extend? We have this conversation every single season.
Look, realistically, there should be no, right now, or at least come the summer, there should be no real reason to give him a new contract, right? To extend him. We do need, additional space in the squad. How many games is Davies realistically going to play every season? The fact that he came in yesterday and did such a good job just shows again, how such a good servant he is to us, right? And that he still has enough in his locker, right, to be able to pull that out. If he's got the right players around him, potentially. As I said, I'd like to, if he was going to, kind of retire from playing or whatever, then I'd offer him a coaching opportunity with us. But there have been rumours linking him still with the likes of Wrexham. Obviously got a bit of cash. They'd probably be able to afford his wages. He may go back to his hometown club, Swansea, which would be a nice kind of, circle, right? Kind of finishing the puzzle for him, possibly after so long at Spurs. I don't think realistically, if you really analyse it, there's much reason as to why I would give him another contract. Because I think we do need that space in the professional squad, and I'd probably rather that a young player maybe has that opportunity to come through. Although I could imagine that some people might say, well, I don't know, like we'll give him another year contract, right? If he's still able to come in and deliver those kind of performances, right, from nowhere, then I don't know. But I also think that they won't make that decision until probably, quite towards the end of the season. There'll be some dialogue probably between his agent and the club, I would imagine, now already, like, what's going on, what we thinking, and I would imagine that they'll be parking that, right, until, April, May time. And, it may depend a bit on how many games he gets until then, and also what happens with Frank, right? We don't know if Frank's going to be here next season. Realistically, we don't know that. I mean, he's got a contract, right? And obviously some of us are, more Thomas Frank in than others. I hope he's here next season. But we don't know it for sure, right? Anything can happen in our club. So, those are kind of the decisions that will be made probably towards April, May time.
Yeah, it certainly will more than likely be that'll be the case, whether fans will like it or not. We'll get into Frank in just a little bit. Before we move on to the second half in this game, there's not too much to discuss on Sunderland, but still a few questions that I want to get through. There's a couple of comments I want to bring up. One, big up from Kieran, who says, this is someone, by the way, commenting in the YouTube chat live for people listening after. He says, that front four of Tell, Odebear, Richarlison, Moani that we ended up with is simply one of the worst in the league for forward lines. Hopeless and embarrassing for a club like Spurs to go from Kane and Son. I think we can all agree that they're not Kane and Son, but he's gone quite far with the language there. Dustin, what do you make of that? He's gone as far as saying that not only they're one of the league's worst front lines, he thinks they're hopeless and embarrassing. Do you echo that, or can you at least understand maybe where he's coming from, or do you just simply not agree with that?
I think you have to take it in the context of kind of how they're expected to play and what the system is. I mean, there are always individual players that can look crap when they are in a system that doesn't work for them. Famously, Kevin De Bruyne and Salah were at Chelsea and never got game time, or even if they did, they never hit the heights there. So it's not that individual players are crap. Sometimes the system or the coach or whatever the case may be, they don't come to fruition at that place. I would say that off the front line, Moani, after impressing in fits and starts, has not he played pretty badly in this game. I think Tell has had an okay performance, but I think one of the things that we have is we have a front line that's young, inexperienced, and kind of lacking in the composure that we have become used to with Kane and Son. And I think we have very much been spoiled for the better part of like a decade having those players there. You can just see it in XG overperformance where most teams, when you overperform your XG, it means that your strikers are getting lucky, and at some point you will regress to the mean and you will no longer score that many. But Kane and Son were such freaks that they overperformed the XG the entire time they were here. So our XG overperformance when we had Kane and Son was not an anomaly. It wasn't a freak result. It was just that our strikers were that damn good. And now that we have Richarlison there, I think there's nothing that will give you a rough landing as much as going from a front line led by Kane and Son to a front line led by Richarlison and, assaulted French teenagers. That said, I think that Odebear has been doing well on the left, and I think he played very well in the Brentford game? But I think that he had a few good performances and that he has the potential to contribute to the front line. But I think a big part of the problem is that he's not gotten consistent game time. When he has gotten game time, it's been in fits and starts. He's got 60 minutes taken off. He's played half an hour or so. But he's also not done well when he started the game. So potentially there is a fitness issue there where the way that he plays, he can't last the entire game. So while I'd say that we are not one of the league's great front lines for sure, I think that a big part of it is kind of whether we are playing to their strengths necessarily.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you very much. And again, that'll come back to the whole conversation, won't it? About the manager. Is he right? Is he playing the right system for the players? And again, we'll get onto that in a little bit. But Dustin, I really do appreciate that. Gary, I'll come to you on to the second half then, because Sunderland's equaliser come 10 minutes from normal time in the 80th minute through Brian Brobby, assist by Enzo Lafay. I mean, before we vent our frustration about not holding on and maybe some things we should have done differently, could have done differently, this goal from Sunderland, I think, was superb. 1-2 touch football, defence to attack in seconds. So do you think that was a really impressive goal from Sunderland?
I mean, yeah, it was. It was coming. I think I said to my brother about 72 minutes. I was like, we just got to hang on 18 more minutes. Can we do it? And then I said, we can hold on. And as it was just churning more and more in my head, I'm thinking, this is Manchester United again. This is going to be the same thing again, where we concede at the death. The goal was very good. However, I've got a couple of issues with it. One, Bentancur is out of position. He goes pressing high. Again, the reason he's doing that is Richarlison isn't pressing. A few times in the first half, Bentancur is closing down the goalkeeper because Richarlison wasn't pressing. He's doing it in the later stages here. Richarlison was clearly very tired. He looked like he probably could have come off if we had anything else on the bench that could have replaced him. So he's then found himself out of position. However, the issue I've got again with is Romero. Romero's let the player move off him, maybe 5 or 6 yards. He's reacted late to that. As he's then gone in to try and intercept the pass, there's a quick 1-2. He's completely out of position. It's a great finish, but Pedro Porro is literally a couple of inches away from stopping that. Take nothing away from the strike. It's fantastic and the movement of it. But I think Romero, if he switched on in that area, he is stopping that. He is stopping that, and he's going through the back of him. He was winding up the number 9 probably for about 25 minutes there in that second half, and it looked like. And I thought to myself, there's two things gonna happen here. Romero's going to get him sent off, or that guy's going to put the ball in the net. And it was the second part of it. Disappointing, but it was coming for the majority of that second half. We really struggled to get out, unfortunately.
Some good points there, mate, Gary, that I'm going to elaborate on and kind of expand on in just a minute. Gary, thank you very much for kicking us off with this goal. Ben, I'll come to you because Gary made an interesting point in particular about Brian Brobby and how, kind of that to do he had with a couple of Spurs players, Porro, Bentancur, all at different moments, just seemed to be something that continued, something that was bubbling over, and he just felt like a red card or a goal was coming, or he just felt like it was unfinished business, let's just say. So do you look back at that and go, it's silly from the Spurs players because we clearly round Brobby up? And a good example of that, it's not an easy score, right? It hits the strike with unreal pace and clear venom. And it's the way he celebrates as well. That's out of anger. The way he goes over to Spurs supporters. And clearly he doesn't have an issue with them. He's got an issue with Spurs because of what has just happened before that. Yeah, that's a celebration and goal out of nothing but frustration. So, do you hold Spurs players to account over that? Check them.
Definitely. The guys just hit the nail on the head. You could see it bubbling the whole second half, and there was even a couple moments before. I think one in the second half where Romero was sort of just lazily controlling a pass. He gets caught up off guard and nearly concedes there as well. So, and the way that Romero sets up his defensive style, that you could see he nearly lets Sunderland through one-on-one basically, and we got very lucky to get away with that one. So it wasn't an accident. It was coming one way or the other, and for as brilliant as Romero can be, and he is a phenomenal defender when he's at his best, he does too many times either lapse in concentration or get into situations he doesn't need to, and either gets other players sent off or himself. And you look back at the a few weeks ago. Remember the shout? It was Liverpool, wasn't it, when he got sent off right at the end, and for lashing out just seemingly for no reason. At Brentford, away the previous game, when he lost his man Thiago and got very lucky not to get sent off there as well. For all of his brilliance, he does lack that mental edge I think you need. If you compare him to Mickey, for instance, who almost never loses his, as I said, doesn't go over the top on that mental capacity. And, that's what separates very good defenders from elite defenders. And unfortunately, that it's been happening too often recently from Romero's point of view, I feel anyway.
Okay, thank you. Interesting point there about Romero. Again, a lot of people thinking that we are better without him. I think, in my view, he's world class, but definitely we've got some problems there. And Romero, definitely, in terms of inconsistency and rash moments, something that feels like a familiar conversation we're having with our captain. But Dustin, on this Sunderland goal, the equaliser in the game, would you agree with what the boys have said, that the goal was coming? We seem to sit back, get too comfortable for a lot of our liking, and Sunderland seem to grow in the game.
I think whenever we substitute Paulinho on, whether it's conscious or not, you substitute Paulinho on, the unspoken message is we're shutting up shop, right? Because, for all his strengths, one of the things that he does not do is progress the ball. So I think that there is kind of a switch that goes off when we kind of lack attacking intent. So however you can talk about whether we intend to play or whether we intend to progress the ball, there's just certain substitutions you make and the team just goes, okay, we're not attacking anymore, we're just going to shut up shop. And what happens as a result is that we surrender the initiative, we surrender possession, we allow teams a lot more time on the ball. And this is a complete contrast to the first half when we were pressing, I would say probably the best pressing we had seen in the first 30 minutes since the PSG game, for example, where, we had Van der Ven pressing all the way into the middle third. And just for whatever reason, the second half, the intensity was completely different.
Interesting stuff, Dustin. Thank you. I think you're completely right with that. Hugely frustrating. Philip, I'll come back to you because the game did end 1-1. I mean, factually, it is 2 points dropped for Tottenham. Does it feel like a loss in many ways? Because we know, I'm sure you can agree, that Sunderland are a really good side, but I just felt they had not a lot to offer in an attacking sense apart from the goal. And I felt, of course, knowing beforehand that they're really strong at home, not as strong away from home. We just wanted to start the new year off, first home game with a win. It's just looking back now, it just hugely frustrating that we just couldn't hold on or try and get that second goal.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a loss, at least. Like we've been there enough times at home, right, where we've either been 1-0 up and we've literally lost 2-1, or we've obviously just gone down 1-0 and then just lost the whole game and played really badly. It wasn't a loss, it was still a point. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I guess, kind of feels a bit like a loss because a draw at home against Sunderland doesn't really bring us anything, doesn't really help us. Like with the win, we would have obviously jumped up the table, up into the top half. We would have obviously got another win on the board at home as well to improve our record. We would have continued on the last couple of games, Palace away, Brentford point, win at home. It's like 7 points from 3 games. The fact that we conceded at the end, and to be honest, I mean, I know Sunderland didn't. We had a higher XG obviously than Sunderland in the end because with better decisions, with better finishing, we should have scored really 2 or 3 goals, right? Richie, Moani. The decision making was awful. Control was awful from Moani. We should have scored more. But again, if you look at that second half, I think Dustin said as soon as Paulinho came on, it's whether it's it's subconsciously or planned or not or whatever. But we do tend to get more defensive and sit back. I'd go a bit further than that. I'd say as soon as they came out for the second half, we weren't. We didn't have the same energy and the same, verve, the same desire, the same front-footed football as we did in the first half. I think from minute 46 onwards, Sunderland were winning the 50-50s again, And I said it to who I was watching with someone. I said, look, this isn't good. Like, you can see it straight away. They've come out and whether they've tweaked anything in their tactics or whether it's literally just them getting a rocket, you know, from their manager, or like a bit of positivity, right? This is how you need to play second half. You know, that's what they did, and they got after us. And I think they hit the post like before they scored as well, literally. You know, when Vicario, he wouldn't have got close to that. That would have been a goal. And yeah, they didn't create loads. Vicario didn't have. I say that, you know, Vicario did have to make a couple of saves. You know, I think in the end, I do remember him making a very good save and then sort of palming something over. But the draw in the end, it kind of feels like a loss because it doesn't really help us, and it doesn't get rid of, you know, maybe some of the negativity which is obviously hanging around still at home. You know, there is a lot of fans at the end of the day. We're a split fan base, you know, and there's a lot of fans that just do not or are not on board with Thomas Frank. And, you know, when we do things like that, you know, regardless of how good the first half was, when we revert back to type in the second half and then bring on a Palina to partner Bentancur and get that pivot back and then concede and then, you know, almost like sort of pray that we don't lose the game at that point, you know, it doesn't help, you know, to get rid of the murmurings. And that's what annoys me. You know, this was an opportunity for us to go and make a statement win, you know, get a statement win, you know, win 3-0, you know, and kind of go into the top half and take those points that we've earned in the last couple of match days and hopefully quieten some of the noise. But as it is, the way that second half turned out, you know, I don't think it really does anything for us, you know, to be honest. And if anything, the fact that we didn't win it in the end, you know, all you have to do is look online. And I know that the online world on X and, you know, everywhere else is sometimes a bit, you know, skewed and a bit different from match-going fans, etc., etc. But, you know, you heard the boos at the full-time whistle. And, you know, you've seen the vitriol online, and the draw doesn't help. That's the issue. That's the issue. I don't think there's much, you know, I'd like to be positive about it and say, well, look, at least in the first half, we showed that, you know, we can, you know, get back on the front foot and, you know, try and attack teams, you know, and show some pressing, you know, make progressive passing and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, we reverted back to type. And I think this game against Bournemouth on Wednesday is incredibly important. I mean, Bournemouth haven't really been in great form at all, you know, and but there's pressure on now, isn't it? You know, if Dr. Tottenham turns, again, I don't want to use that term. I really don't want to use that term, but we've seen it so many times. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just praying that they turn up. Or what we want on Wednesday. And I know I'm preempting this a bit, but we need them to turn up and just, you know, with the right attitude. That's what we need. It's just look. I'm rambling on here because I'm frustrated again, because, you know, this was the opportunity for us to make a statement, to get a statement win at home. Sunderland is still a promoted side, regardless what their form is this season. You know, they're missing 7 AFCON players, isn't it? Something like that, or 5. 5 players have gone to AFCON and they're missing 2 others. So I don't know. You know, there's a lot to work on still. We'll take some of the positives from that first half. The fact that he did play Tell, the fact that he did play Davies, get a bit more balance. You know, I just hope that we can take that and, you know, reset again for Bournemouth, I would say.
Gary, thank you. You covered a lot there. Really do appreciate it. Gary, if I come to you, let's bring up some slides here for people listening on YouTube and they all run through. And, you know, I'm just showing all the chances that Tottenham had in the game. Do you think we created enough, Gary, to win this game 2-0? Of course, you have to be more professional and cuter maybe in the way you see out a game. But I just felt, I don't know about you, that we had the opportunities to score more than 1 goal.
Yeah, we did in the first half. I think there was a Richarlison back post header that, you know, it was cleared, but he could have got to. I think the big 2 were really Mwani's opportunity from the pass from Porro. Just poorly controlled this one. It just tries to control it with the outside of his right foot rather than using the left foot that it's clearly going on to. If he controls that one touch, that's a strike. He's scoring that. And then the header at the end, again, another good cross from Pedro Porro that's João Palhinha has headed wide. I actually thought that was Romero from where I was sitting. But again, those two opportunities, I think other teams are putting them away. We just don't have that killer instinct at the moment. It's concerning. We've won 1 in the last 5, 2 draws, 2 wins, but we're getting these opportunities, and we need to put the ball away, and we definitely had them. But equally, Sunderland did too. There was one in the first half that was smashed. Was really hit well from distance, that went just over the bar. They obviously hit the post as well. Had a couple of other opportunities. So both teams really could have won it. For me, it was a tale of two halves. It was us in the first half and them in the second. But in that 94th minute, it was there for us. And unfortunately, we didn't have that killer instinct.
We didn't. Gary, thank you very much. And sticking with you, Richarlison's received some criticism on social media for a moment. If the slide we'll go back to hopefully in a minute, where he's got the opportunity to play the pass to, I believe, was Kolo Muani. I mean, do you get the frustration from fans there that pass just maybe he's played a little bit earlier, and in the end, of course, it didn't lead to anything in the goalkeeper's arms, I believe. Oh no, I think it just went to waste in the end.
Yeah, there was a number of opportunities like this. It's not just on Richarlison. I've been pretty heavily critical of him, and I probably always will be. But we have to give him some praise when he deserves it, and the things he has done. Unfortunately, I thought Sunday was one of those days where he didn't produce again. Really, I really just believe that we're such a fractured or split fan base at the moment, and a bit like what Phil was saying earlier, that we will find a negative in something so we can talk about it online or whatever it is.
True.
There was a message I'd seen after the Palace game when we won. Someone had wrote, "I'm annoyed that we won, so he doesn't get a sack, and he would rather of us lose to see Thomas Frank be sacked." And it is
common thing.
We're not the things aren't fitting that person or those accounts sort of narrative at the time. I never want to see us win. I'm not very happy with a lot of the stuff that's going on, but I just feel like if we can find a negative somewhere, we're going to jump on it just to fit our narrative that we have at that particular time. And at the moment, we don't have Daniel Levy to shout at. So we're finding the next person, and at the minute, it is Thomas Frank that we're finding.
100%. That is so true. So true. A few things I want to bring up then before we move on to the Bournemouth preview. And one of them is here. And this is a little graphic on pass connections. Dustin, this fantastic graphic was created by yourself. Would you like to talk us through here what some of this means? Of course, this is relevant to the Sunderland game first half and second half, and kind of that connections between the Tottenham team.
Oh, I didn't create this. This is created by Spurs PL Statsman on
bad.
X. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, I like to give credit where it belongs. I think the main thing you'd see is that the first half we had significantly more passes, a lot of them down the left where Tel was, and that we had Tel and Ben Davies that were creating a lot down that left. And if you look at the second half, it's dropped a third. So I think that, what we saw with our eyes, we can backtest with the data, and our eyes saw a lot of a huge reduction in our attacking play, and we can see that we've 1/3 of the amount of passes in the attacking half.
Interesting stuff. I mean, what does that tell you, do you think, Dustin? What has kind of led to that change in? Just why ultimately?
I mean, it's just after halftime, so you would have to point to what was the halftime talk. Was it we're going to keep it tight, or is it we're going to get a second goal? And even if you don't make substitutions, if you come out in the second half and the pressing intensity that we saw in the first half is not there anymore, and that the number of passes in the opposition half are 1/3 of what they were in the first half, then you have to say that there's something that changed at halftime.
Interesting. That's a little bit concerning, some would say. But Dustin, another graphic here, this one by Sky Sports, about progressive passes by midfielders in the last 3 games, which again is concerning reading for any Spurs fans. Talk us about this and just maybe why it is so concerning.
So we've got that terrible stat where we have, I think it was a few games ago, where we had 7 through balls the entire season. And I think, central ball progression has been our problem for the whole season, to the point that single players from the opposition have more progressive passes than our entire midfield in the last 3 games. So even if we, there were performances that we wanted to take positives from, but this is a pretty damning stat in terms of the kinds of midfield progression we should be looking to do better than one player of the opposition.
Yeah, very, very concerning. People can't see it. So that Palace game away, which you did win 1-0, the Tottenham midfield made 4 progressive passes. Adam Wharton, as an individual, made 10. Then that Brentford away game, which ended 0-0, the whole Tottenham midfield made more with 7. But Jordan Henderson on his own made 10. He wasn't on the pitch for the whole game either. I think he come off right at the very end. Then Sunderland, as you know, 1-1 draw last time out. Tottenham midfield made 5 progressive passes, so 2 down on Brentford. Granit Xhaka made 7. And I think it's important to note context, right? 3 players have been picked out by Sky for this: Adam Wharton, Jordan Henderson, and Granit Xhaka. That's why they're in their teams for progressive passing. All 3 of them, that's a quality of their own. But even so, you'd hope the Tottenham midfield could do a little bit better to that one.
We don't
but
have
got
the player,
plenty.
though. That's the
No,
issue.
that's the
We
issue.
don't
Yeah,
have
that's the
that
problem.
player. We don't have that. We don't have a progressive number 8. We have 2 number 6s sitting there, and then against Crystal Palace, we had 3 number 6s, with one person being asked to play a number 10 role. And we don't have that progressive player in Adam Wharton. That's why everybody wants Adam Wharton to come to Tottenham, because we need a progressive 8. It's like me, you, and Phil. I think we sat on a podcast before, and I said Morgan Gibbs-White needs to be our number 8. He needs to be in that double pivot. He is that progressive pass for us. We just don't have it, and that's the reason why those stats are looking damning. But ultimately, we haven't lost a game in those 3 games.
No, that's the thing. No. And listen, I'm always
we're not
glass half
performing
full.
very well. Exactly. We got to look for some positive.
Right. Yeah. But
he didn't lose
there
any
are
of
a
them.
few though. That's the thing. And 1 goal conceded in 3 games, unbeaten in 2026. You have to take, what you can get. But I mean, I thought about putting it on social media, but
when you are Brentford 2.0, you accept those things.
I mean, the fact that I even am behind Thomas Frank, I mean, that never goes down well. So I imagine me putting something or anyone putting, the stat that we're unbeaten in 2026, let's just put it that way, would not go down well. I thought about it, but decided probably for my own safety to do otherwise. But Dustin, one more stat that I do want to bring up, and again, that you produced for us here, that is a passing stat, I do believe. So talk to us again about this. It's a lot of data, and you know a lot more than me on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's by a guy named Ben Griffiths. He's got he's done a front end where he, scrapes Opta stats, and you can generate your pass map after the game. So one thing you notice about this game is we do have a progressive passer. He's our right back, and in the middle topmost box, that's Pedro Porro's pass map. So he does most of our progressive passing. Because Kudus wasn't on, Kudus would have done some of that as well. And then you can see that Bentancur does a little bit of it. He's 1 down into the right of Porro. And then you can see Ben Davies actually did quite a lot, which is he's just under Porro. So we do have some progressive passing, but, not in positions where you would expect them to be.
Right, okay. And who's the worst of progressive passer then? I'm just trying to look at this one. Who's going backwards the most?
Archie Gray. Sideways and backwards, everywhere we go.
Yeah. Ben, hang on. Am I looking? So the names are at the top of the... Yeah, the names are at the top.
Yeah.
I'd say Bentancur. He's made 4 progressive passes and a lot of backwards ones, but he's a 6. He's not going to make those progressive passes.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? A lot of data we could look at, but
interesting. Dane Scarlett made 1 pass.
1.
Wow.
Wasn't on long, was he?
No.
Just a single pass for him. Struggled to get in the game. I do feel for him after that impact against Copenhagen. It's taken a long while to see him again, which I'm not sure I agree with. Actually, one more question while I think of it with the Sunderland game, away from this kind of data. Philip, I'll briefly give it to you. A lot of people are moaning at Frank's substitutions. I don't think they're going to be moaned at if we win the game 1-0, but do you view that as maybe a problem? I personally look at it and think the right players come on, but maybe we could have brought off the likes of Bentancur, as we mentioned a few times, when we're bringing on Paulinho. Do we really need both? Because we're going to naturally sit back, aren't we? And we have 2 defensive midfielders on. That's the fans' frustration, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there was much too wrong with his subs. I mean, you got to look at the bench as well, right? I mean, the options that we had. Obviously, having brought on Tell, anyways. Sorry, not Moani, right? For Kudus, we had very little options. But yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I personally, I don't really want to see Bentancur and Paulinho, be on the pitch at the same time. And I've seen it too often. It is definitely not progressive. And with the greatest of respect, I don't think we need that, 1-0 up at home against Sunderland after 60, 70 minutes, I would have preferred to see Bentancur come off. Thought he played, actually, Bentancur, I thought he had phases of the game where he played really well. Actually, he did kind of what he's supposed to do. Archie Gray, I thought, had some bright moments in the first half, but in the second half, not so much. But still, I would have liked to have seen Bentancur come off if he was going to make that sub, and then bring on Paulinho and maybe then leave Gray out there or whatever. Bergvall obviously came on. I mean, look, we haven't talked about Bergvall yet, but I mean, Bergvall's seen a massive drop off compared to last season. I can't really remember the last time that I saw Bergvall, kind of play, let's say a full 45 minutes or a full 90 minutes and actually think, wow, Bergvall's, done really well in that game and made a really big impression, if I'm being honest.
I think you come on though, sorry to interrupt, he's pressing and stuff like that. Of course, the foul throwing there, but some would say his pressing was there, the intensity, then maybe relax. I'm just thinking of playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know, when he came on, I thought that again, in terms of roles on the pitch and where he's supposed to be, the makeup of the centre midfield or that middle three was off as well. It didn't really seem connected. I can't remember if it was for the goal as well, or if it was just before that, maybe when they hit the post. But there was one occasion when someone, I think it was Bentancur, when he pressed super high up the pitch, but not in sync with anyone else, and then he left a massive gap at the back, which they just played through. Can't remember which it was, and it was frankly, it was an awful passage of play. It was just why are you doing that? And I think Bergvall had come on at that point as well. And it just seemed like, that they were all kind of out of sync. And I mean, look, I know we've talked about it as well on this pod and on other ones before, but I still think that our centre midfield, or let's say that centre midfield and the number 10, that kind of triangle of 3, however it's set up, right? I think that's our biggest problem in the team, and I think it will continue to be our biggest problem and Frank's biggest problem until we either buy a Wharton or a Jordan Henderson, someone who can just get on the ball, right, and actually kind of control things better. It's one thing doing progressive passing, but it's also another thing just being on the ball, being able to turn and do the simple things right. And that, and it can even be slightly backwards passing, but do the right thing at the right time. And we don't have any of that at the moment in our centre midfield. And I know that's a whole other topic, but that's where the challenge comes for me. And then if you bring on you bring on Paulinho, you bring on Bergvall, you bring on whoever, I honestly think it just doesn't really make that much difference at the moment, because it doesn't seem to fit. Something just doesn't, there's no balance there somewhere in midfield. I know we don't have the individual quality of the progressive passing. We don't have the progressive passes, but it just doesn't work. It's not effective. It says it all when you got Granit Xhaka, who's a very, very good player, by the way, and he would walk into our team at the moment, if we're being honest. But it says it when him or Jordan Henderson are kind of running the show in midfield, right, in those respective games. against, the kind of players that we have. So I don't know. But again, Frank, his subs, I don't think you can get on his back too much about that. Like those players, when they come on anyways, you'd have to expect as well that they slot in and probably, deliver what they're supposed to deliver as well. And that also hasn't always been the case, And I think as well, by the way, in that second half, we can say what we want about Frank, being too pragmatic, or about the team sitting back and everything else, which probably was part of it. Looking at those graphics that we saw, but a lot of it does have to come onto the players as well. It has to come onto the players in that second half.
Philip, thank you. You're very honest in that little piece there, so I do appreciate your honesty as always. Thank you. A lot of people, including myself, will agree with some of the points you made there. Before we get into Bournemouth, there is one thing I do want to add in, and it is about Thomas Frank. And I think we could easily get down the rabbit hole of discussing this for, probably hours, but even if we just say an awfully long time. So I want short, snappy answers to find out where you stand with Thomas Frank. Ideally, no more than about 30 to 40 seconds. So literally your position on Thomas Frank, in or out, and the why, the biggest reason that leads you to that right now. So I'm going in no particular order. So be thinking it could come to you at any moment. Ben, you haven't said something for a little while, so I'll kick it off with you. Frank in or out, and why?
I will say Frank in. We do have to bear in mind he's missing Solanke, Madison, Kulusevski, some of his key players, which we know. In my opinion, we have to give him at least to the end of the season, get most of them, hopefully all of them, back at some point. Hopefully it will click into place, and we can actually see some progression, actually see what he wants to do with us. In my opinion, that's what we've got to do at the minute, and just fingers crossed it will start to click into place.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the short answer. Exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Frank in from Ben. Gary, Frank in or out? What are you thinking?
Shake it all about. Yeah, in. I don't think we've seen enough from him at the moment. I don't think he has the tools to do it. Can't build a house without the right tools. I saw someone write on their social media earlier. And it is very true. He doesn't have the tools he's working with, so I don't think we can best judge him right now. However, I need to see some progression in January transfer window, which I think he's massively part of. If we continue down as we are now, I don't envision him being here in the summer. But we need some big changes coming up. So it is down to him, Vinay, Vivian, Charlie. It's down to them now.
Gary, thank you. Appreciate that. Before I come to the other two, I just want to give my very, very brief thoughts. So I'm just going to, Gary's mentioned it there, just to copy what I put on X here. I said on X earlier, it did go down well, but I'm not surprised. I said I'm 100% behind Thomas Frank. I cannot be clearer. You can't build a house without the tools. It'd be sensible to buy some tools urgently rather than scrap building the house altogether and forget about it. Defensively, we look better, improving each game. Imagine how good we could be with some of our offensive players back. So that's my opinion on Thomas Frank. I blame upstairs in Enoch right now. We've promised transparency, they promised honesty, they promised change. Not one of those three things have been delivered at the time of recording. Philip, this is going to be a challenge for you, and I love setting you a challenge to only talk for so long. With all due respect, you do say some amazing things as always, but can you keep it short with your thoughts on Thomas Frank?
Yeah, I've just put the timer on, or the countdown timer. Yeah, so Thomas Frank in. I'm definitely Thomas Frank in. As Gary said, as you said, as others have said, he doesn't have the tools to do his job, that he wants to do at the moment. He needs this transfer window, and as Gary said, he's part of that as well. So he needs to influence and impact that. He needs really to get the season. Realistically, if we were to get rid of him, who are we getting in now? We're not getting in our future manager now. It'd probably have to be an interim solution till the summer, which I don't think benefits anyone. So he has to get the season. But look, I mean, if we're jumping on these podcasts in May, June, and we've signed 2-3 players, and the performances are still like they are at the moment, and we're still down in, I don't know, 13th, 14th place, then I would imagine that the board will make a change in the summer. And whether that's the right decision or not, I don't know. But I would imagine that the board would be looking at managers that could be coming available in the summer, because there'll be quite a few managers available in the summer. But I hope he gets the time, and he's losing a lot of the fans. And, you know, again, as I said before, I hope it doesn't get to the point where it gets even, how do you say, critically toxic, right? Which is why Thomas Frank, I think, just needs to keep doing what he did in the first half, you know, changing things up and showing that he wants to play progressively, because that's what a lot of the fans are looking for, rightly or wrongly.
Okay, Philip, I'll take that. Thank you very much for that. That's short for you, so I do appreciate that. Dustin, what are your thoughts? Everyone's been franking so far, convincing or not. That has been the verdict. Are you sticking with that, or are you putting your neck out and going with something different?
No, you have to be frank in, because at this point, it's too short. You don't have a replacement, and the problems are coming above his pay grade. So until there are signings, until there are people, that players who you brought in that can play the style, there's no point sacking the manager, because what are you going to do? Give it to Stellini? Give it to Ryan Mason? They're not even here anymore. You don't have caretakers anymore. Give it to Redknapp. He hasn't managed in a decade. He's spending more time on reality TV than he is on a bench. So I think that in lieu of having a better coach, you don't sack the coach until you know you have something that's gonna be able to do better with the existing squad you have, and I don't think that exists right now. So you got to give him time, but you also have to make sure to hold the board's feet to the fire and make sure that they get him the tools that he needs as well.
Agree with all of you. I mean, it's a stark contrast to social media. I mean, it's just a sensible panel. Of course, anyone listening, you know, watching, or anyone that comes on the show, more entitled to your opinion. If you don't want Thomas Frank here, even if you view him as a number one problem, that's absolutely fine. But I just hate how people just go Frank out. Then you ask them why, and they get offended, or they're not interested in explaining why, and they'll take anyone as well instead of Frank. And some of the names that are thrown out there, and you know, even one today, it was dead serious. I can't remember who it was. You know, just honestly crazy. I think one was shooting, and you know, managers like that, I just think, really, you know, come on. We surely, you know, that's not the right thing to do. But before we get to Bournemouth, I'm going to be awkward. I agree with all of you, but raise your hand if your opinion you think right now would change on Thomas Frank if we lose both games this week. So we lose to Bournemouth in the Premier League, our next game, and we lose to Villa. That's a big one, because that means we go out the FA Cup. I'm interested to know if we exit that competition, and of course we lose to Bournemouth, we probably end up about 15th or 16th place. I think he's under huge pressure by the end of the week. Will he be in the job by Sunday? I honestly think that, with the way that the fan pressure is building at the moment. So raise your hand if you'd be Frank out if we lost 2 games this week. Gary's halfway there. What's
There's a
stopping you,
reason
Gary?
for that.
Yeah,
The
go
reason is it will depend on what recruitment we get. If there's no recruitment during that time period, that shows to me that the ownership are umming and ahhing, they're 50-50 on him. And if we lose those, I think he potentially could. There's a number of managers that have come available in the last couple of hours, right? You know, you got Amarin at Manchester United's gone, Chelsea, Maresca's gone, Gareth Southgate's out there. You've got Rand. There's a number of people out there. I just think it comes down to recruitment. If we don't get anything this week and next week, I definitely think that there might be something that perhaps we're not aware of.
Okay, interesting. Anyone else unsure? Not sure what they'd go with.
I think, yeah, I am. I'm the same. I'm similar, but I think that if he loses both those games and we play, and the performances are really bad, like really bad, you know, like kind of Forest level performances, you know, with hardly anything created, second best. And as Gary said, if there's no incomings yet, and based on the quotes that Frank has put out over the last 2 days, there's a couple of quotes there, right, from the press conferences where you kind of listen to it and you're like, that doesn't really sound that positive, right? It doesn't sound like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, if we don't manage to get anyone who we think is going to improve us, then we just won't get anyone. Like, I can see why he's saying that, but that doesn't really sound that good. And it wouldn't surprise any of us, would it, if we don't get the players in that we need to now. So if we haven't got anyone else in the next kind of week to 10 days and we lose both those games badly, I can see him being sacked. but that's also just because of the pressure from the fans as well, and almost getting untenable, right? And I hope it doesn't go that way, but we've seen it before, and I can see it because I've never seen so many fans actually anti one of our managers to the point of like personal insults at that level, as you mentioned before. I've never seen it.
His career.
Never.
And people say what he done at Brentford was nothing. It's a negative net spend. He's transformed the club, taken to another division, and whole different
It's a complete disrespect. Complete disrespect.
The Europa League is the biggest blessing and the biggest curse that we've had.
Absolutely. And Champions League final.
Yeah, and really the Europa League is because we don't have the depth. We have some quality, real quality in there, but we don't have the depth. And I think that is what's causing the issues, because we can't deal with the injury crisis we had at the back last year. We now can't deal with the injury crisis we've got going forward. And it's a curse, because a lot of people are thinking, and rightfully so, well, Ange won us a trophy. He's won us something, and that's correct. But we're struggling now.
Context.
Because of what's happened there as well. We were 17. By all accounts, we should have got relegated last season. We were that bad, and I think it slightly blurs some viewpoints. But we can't keep chipping and changing the manager. But equally, we can't sit 15th in the Premier League and 17th. It's just we can't do that. It's just we're too big of a club to be there. And I agree with Phil. If we do lose these two games, I don't think we win against Aston Villa. I think they're far too strong at the moment. So it comes down to Bournemouth. Is Semenyo going to be playing? Probably. They've not won a game in 5, so Dr. Tottenham coming along. And if they do not get a sign-in this week or early next week, he might be in trouble, because maybe the ownership are not saying we're not going to put money behind you. Who knows?
Exactly that. Gary, thank you very much. Well, lastly, I will say is I just like that Frank's honest. I'd rather a manager say, look, this club's not in a great place, right? And I'm going to try and disrespect the history. I think he comes across maybe sometimes in the wrong way, but I like him saying, look, it's not perfect. Let's stop sugarcoating it. We got like the owners, and we had it with Johan Langer and Paratici sitting down, and they painted this picture. I know they didn't say it, and that's why fans can't see it. They didn't black and white say everything's rosy, but the rhetoric they use, we're going to work well together for years to come. We're going to transform this club. It's a PR stunt at best, right? And that's the pure aim behind it. And it's gaslighting, I believe, for fans. When you sit here and go, we're going to update you, especially when things go, wrong. Well, let me assure you, there'd be at least 2 updates already if we're in a better position, and I'm absolutely confident about that. We would have had a plan for the January window. We would have had a season review. So far, none of that's happened. And let me assure you as well, if the fan forum was due now, it'd be pushed back based on the way we were playing, and just little things like that. I'd rather, even as a club when things are difficult, and like for example with my channel, to even link it to that, nothing at the same size, but I'd rather face the music and have this conversation when things aren't going well, to be transparent and to be honest and to correct what has gone wrong. Or just the club love hiding. That's all I say. Go on, Philip.
Can I just say really quickly? I think that Frank's challenge is that he's too honest. He's a really nice guy, right? He's a genuinely
and look
top,
what's happened
top guy.
To Maresca, to Amarin, they've been sacked for being too honest.
They've been sacked. Amarin obviously was pretty. What he was saying was pretty hardcore, though, right? So, he definitely kind of put it to the club almost. It felt like Amarin was kind of trying to test the club a bit, right? See what you're going to do. You're going to fire me?
Antonio Conte moment.
No one's ever going to out Conte though.
No, it was his Conte moment.
That's another level. That's so true.
But Frank is honest, and a lot of fans love that, but a lot of fans can't deal with that because it's not sexy enough. It's not like and it comes across sometimes when you see the written words from press conferences as being a bit negative, like a bit, not really like selling things to the max. But that's just how he is. He is a very kind of honest and pragmatic guy, and we're not used to that, right? Because we've come from Ange. Before that, we had Conte. We had Mourinho. That's 3 massive personality guys. Who just kind of, it's all about them, right? Really. And Frank's completely different. It's completely different.
How much of it do you think is kind of like you know, because press conferences matter a lot in the EPL, right? Because the manager kind of becomes the spokesperson for the club. If people are frustrated about the hierarchy, if there's if there are things going on with referees, the manager is kind of like he's got it all pinned on him. And sometimes they're asking the manager to speak about things that they don't have control over. You can ask them about players, you can ask them about signings, and there are times that managers of other clubs have gone, stop asking me, I don't know. I don't sign the players, I don't have that level of control. So it feels almost like part of the backlash is also fans not accepting his responses and his kind of managing of expectations. And there's a stark difference there where he's talking about, hey, we were 17th last season, and fans take umbrage to that. It is a factual statement, but there's also an element of people feeling, are you saying that if you got 16th, that would be an improvement and that's good enough for us? So I almost feel like there's kind of stuff that people are interpreting between the lines that they are taking offense to, as opposed to, taking the facts as they're spoken.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Sorry, Harry, this is something
Yeah.
because this has been on my mind a lot. I've noticed it ever. You've got to remember, Thomas Frank, he was Daniel Levy's guy to replace Ange. Levy was the one who brought him in. So, and ever since Levy's gone out the door, and I've seen it floating around online as well, could the Vinay and the new kind of structure at the top think, you know what, Frank's Levy's guy, are we going to push him to one side, get rid of, I mean, Paratici seems to be on his way back to Italy. I don't see Lange being there much longer. Could the Vinay and all of them actually push them to the side and say, look, it is a different Spurs. We are running this club. We are making the decisions now. I'm not. This isn't me just saying Frank's going to get the boot or anything, but it's something to keep in mind, because, and given what we've heard and seen over the last couple of days, and as Dustin just said, you look at Maresca, you look at Amorim. When that train begins to get going with them, it's just 99 times out of 100 they're given the door. Again, that's just the pattern that happens, but I hope it doesn't. But we'll see.
Another sign I'll take to that lends credence to what you're saying is Paratici being pushed out the door, because when Levy was around, we have this innovative dual director system, and then 2 months later Paratici's gone, right? So I think that there is some elements of like a boardroom struggle that we're not seeing, and there are people that claim to be ITK talking about whatever's happening, but it's clearly something is out of sync at levels above the manager.
That's why I think Frank's like voicing his frustration, and then fans are moaning at him, but they're not moaning at the owners who are sugarcoating it. I just want them to say, look, right now we're not going to win trophies soon, or whatever they may say. I know they've got to be careful what they say. I'd just rather be told, look, we need to be patient. We're back in Thomas Frank. Like United were clear. They come out and went, Amorim, this is our position. We believe in giving him so long, and they're honest. I know they're new, kind of owners. I get that, but I think the new Spurs board are treated as new owners. It feels like they've been given another opportunity. I'm like, it's the same people, the same ambition, non-existent. The same aims, non-existent again. But we could talk about this forever. Let's preview Bournemouth then. Quick thoughts and score prediction. Gary, I'll kick it off with you in same kind of thing with kind of 30, 60-second thoughts, but also your score prediction. What are you thinking?
If we start like we did in the first half and we are able to replicate that for the full 90, our away form is very, very good. We're top of the league for away form, so quietly confident. They're struggling a little bit at home. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win away from home.
Good stuff. Thank you. Bournemouth winless in 11 games and Tottenham next. I mean, that never makes good reading when you see that kind of thing on social media. Philip, quick thoughts and score prediction.
Normally, I'm very positive about us going away, someone like Bournemouth. I'm not very positive this time. I think we're going to lose on Wednesday, to be honest. I think it's going to be Semenyo's last game. Pretty sure he's going to score for them as well. Maybe Alex Scott will score, being a Spurs fan as well. But I'm predicting. I think we'll score. I'm going to predict a 2-1 defeat, actually. And I don't normally predict defeats, but I think I've got to this time. That's my feeling, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I'm not looking forward to this week, if I'm honest with you, because anything that goes wrong is instantly put on the manager. And I just feel 2 losses this week going out of another competition. I just think Frank will struggle to make it out of this week. I think right now he's okay, but not if this continues, and it could just get worse this week. Dustin, score prediction and your thoughts?
I try to be positive, but it's Dr. Tottenham. Bournemouth can't buy a win, and the only thing that would make it worse is if an international break was coming up. So, I think that if we're going to buck this trend, I think I agree with Gary, which is you need to have that kind of intensity and that kind of pressing, and as Frank says in his press conferences, you can't rely on one goal. So why are we making defensive substitutions? And I think that he needs to kind of to do. He needs to take it to Bournemouth and try to outscore them rather than to contain them. And I think that if we do that, we've got a chance. Otherwise, I don't see us getting a win out of this. So if he does that, I think we can get a 1-0 win.
Okay, thank you. Ben, wrap us up then with your thoughts and score prediction. Positive one there from Dustin.
I will never say that we will lose a game. I mean, I'll have fear, but I'm never going to say that. So, obviously, my heart says we win, but I'm really going to say 2-2, I think. I do think we're going to get a couple. I can see us going for with picking this back again near the end. So, I'll say 2-2 a draw.
Okay, lovely stuff. Thank you very much, and a big thank you to my panel today for joining me. And we think we covered a lot and had a lot of good, genuine, honest, balanced conversations. Something that would be, fantastic if we had more, amongst the Spurs fans right now. But Gary, where can people follow you? Firstly, across social media. Thank you very much for your time. Plug your channel as well, please do.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Always good to be back on. It's been a little while since I've been back on. You can find me on X, mainly at Gary R. Ward. Cover a lot of the Tottenham, pretty much all Tottenham MLS stuff as well, trying to press conferences, news and rumours, and my own personal thoughts. So if you want to follow us on there, jump over. And then I have Project Spurs that we're launching. You've been on a few times, and so as Phil. So if anyone wants to come over, be on part of the channel as well, you're more than welcome to. We've got a live transfer chat tomorrow, and then we'll be live after the game on Wednesday, and everyone's welcome to come and join us.
Gary, thank you for your time. People, make sure to go and check that one out. It's always good to have Gary on, very talented, knows what he's talking about. There's a lot of good content himself. Please do support him. Gary, thank you very much again for your time. Philip, thank you for joining us from Frankfurt, Germany again, along with Dustin. Prime example, getting Spurs fans on from around the world, everything the channel is about. Where can people follow you across social media? Remind people of your role as well within the German Lily Whites.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on again, Harry. It's always a pleasure. I'm mainly on X at Frankfurt Spurs. I tweet mainly about, obviously, Spurs, a bit about Eintracht Frankfurt here in the Bundesliga. Just to remind, I'm on the board of an official Tottenham Hotspur supporters club here in Germany that we're trying to build out. We've got, I think, 120 members now. We're growing all the time and trying to just kind of, make sure we're doing the right activities, right, to spread the word about Spurs in Germany. Got a big meetup planned, right, for the Dortmund game. That's the home game, for the Frankfurt game in a couple of weeks. And again, I'll just shout out to anyone who's watching this. If you're traveling out here to Frankfurt and you want to know the best places to go, eat and drink, stay, whatever, getting around, then just shout me out. Just send me a DM or whatever, and I'll help you out. That's absolutely cool. And by the way, Harry, you didn't give your prediction about the game as well. So
oh no, I like to try and dodge them. Oh no, listen, I love to be positive and glass half full. It's the approach I generally like to take. So whenever I'm negative, it gets thrown back at me. I have a bad feeling, right, as someone who's optimistic. If I had to predict, I'm going to be quite bold here. Unfortunately, I think we lose both games this week, and I actually think Thomas Frank will go because of the fan pressure on Sunday. I just have in my head of this image that, this is the last week that, we experience what we're experiencing now. And that I found a little bit sad because I think it's something that could work out. And if I had to predict again, I think Frank will probably go to Manchester United. Hand on heart, that's what I think will happen. I think he'll do really well there. So my prediction is Monday morning he's appointed, because Sunday night I think he'll be sacked from Spurs. I think it'll be instant. He gets straight back into a new job. I think we lose this game. I think we lose 3-1. Agree with you on Semenya's last game. But I really hope I'm wrong, but I just can't. Actually had a nightmare about it last night. I think it tells you how strongly I do feel about Frank at the moment. But that's how I envisioned it. And I can't shift that today, and it's bugging me. So that's how I feel. But I hope I'm wrong. I'll be the first to say that. But thank you for asking, Philip. It's very, very kind of you. Dustin, thank you for coming on. I mean, what is it now? 4:30-ish a.m. in Singapore. You know what I'm going to ask you. But firstly, where can people follow you? And also, what's the plan for the rest of the day? Is it sleep? Is it food? Is it get up and go about your day? What are we thinking?
It's get up and send my daughter to school. You can follow me on X. It's Luminoir, LUMINOIR, which is over here. And I've got a YouTube series. Part of those slides that you see are stuff that I capture from the game for tactical breakdowns of games. I think I'm on my 4th episode now. I've been breaking down games, but I've also been doing other things around it, which is, talking about automations and how can we possibly use them to improve some areas of our build-up play.
Love it. Dustin, thank you. Your knowledge is fantastic. And I love some of the graphics you bring on and designs, and your tactical analysis is much appreciated and much valued here. Thank you always for your time and your input. Much appreciated. Ben, great to have you back on for your second appearance. Thank you very much. Where can people follow you across social media? Because I know you're quite big as well on your content creation.
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. The name's Ben Boorman. You can find me Ben Spurs 21, Ben Jim 21, whether it's fitness or Spurs or my daily vlogs when I go to games. I'm generally always around online to talk to and have fun. Have a good conversation with online, and just generally enjoying life. Really, for as much as I love Spurs, there's other good things, to enjoy life about. So, football should be something enjoy, not something you obsess over and consume. So, sometimes take a step back and just enjoy, which is something I've tried to do more of this season. So, see it from almost a backward point of view. So, anyone who's in that position, just remember it's okay just to unwind for a minute and just not let your emotions get the best of you.
Ben, good on you. Firstly, thank you for your time, but good on you. I wish more people were as sensible and looked at it like that. And you're a genuine great guy, so always appreciate your time, and the way you come across is fantastic. And I always enjoy talking to you on air, off air, whenever that may be. So thank you, and keep up your good work as well, spreading positivity and some good content. Thank you. And very lucky today to have 4 fantastic guests on that all do each individual brilliant work. I mean, all the guests I have on is brilliant, but tonight I think is what I call 5-star panel. In the work they call it, was it the A team? Let's just say. So thank you to all of you for your time, and those listening via audio podcast platform. Thank you so much. Please drop us a follow and a 5-star review if you're new. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe if you're new. If you like this in particular bit of content, drop a like, and let's make 2026 a big year. I mean, if you can live up to the expectations of 2025, I'm one happy man. Let me tell you right now, I wish Thomas Frank could be as happy. Hopefully, come the Bournemouth game, he will be a lot happier than he is now, along with his Tottenham team, working our way up the table. But let's remain positive. Let's be sensible in the way you put across opinions. And for now, hopefully, by the way, next time you're hearing from me, it'll be about a Spurs win. We've got to ride that. But for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.
Came along, just like a song, and bright